On today's episode, we're talking all things inflation, the computational differences between CPI and PPI, which was a big online debate in the past week. We're going to be talking about some of the price increases that are getting very visibly noted on big, large exposed retailers like Amazon and Walmart. And we're also going to talk about certain categories where inflation is just outright exploding, specifically coffee, beef, household appliances, and more. So sit back tight, stay tuned, and I hope you enjoy. So last week, there was this pretty big debate online. If you are one of those that is permanently online, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. And it was this difference where we saw CPI, which is Consumer Price Index. It was rising and it was beating expectations, and there's a trend of it rising overall, versus PPI, which is Producer Price Inflation Index. And that was showing that inflation was falling, that it was not a pass-through effect from tariffs, that this was somehow proof that tariffs are not in fact inflationary. But the people that were taking that side missed out one critical part, and it's that PPI explicitly does not include foreign producers. PPI is a domestic measure of producer inflation. PPI measures how American manufacturers and factories are seeing their prices go up and down. And of course, American producers' prices are not going up. And the tariffs are on foreign producers. Nobody expected an American sock manufacturer that's making everything here in the United States to have their prices go up. We were worried about the Vietnamese sock manufacturer. We were worried about his company's prices going up. So of course, PPI didn't go up. My personal take here is that inflation is rising. If you follow me on Twitter, you've seen that over the weekend. I've been a little skeptical, to be honest, about the government's numbers, BLS numbers of 2.7% inflation year to year. And I'm only skeptical because, look, I live a life just like you live a life, just like everyone else lives a life, right? My three biggest expense categories are housing, health insurance, and food. My housing variable costs, so property taxes, utilities, maintenance, things that are not stuck, like my mortgage as an example, they're up close to 10% from last year. My health insurance costs are literally up by 30%. I'm not kidding. 30% my health insurance monthly premium is up. And then we have food costs. My personal food costs are up about 7-8% year over year. I try not to eat away from home so much for health reasons. I also try not to eat a lot of red meat for health reasons. But if I consumed a more average amount of red meat, I think this would be closer to 10%, my personal numbers. So, just with that in mind, if my three personal biggest categories are growing by 10, 30, and 7%, how are we getting 2.5, 2.6, 2.7% inflation? The numbers just don't check out over here. Listen, I'm not trying to be conspiratorial, but I'm not experiencing 2.5% inflation. Are you? Let me know in the comments section. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe my lifestyle is particularly unique and I'm experiencing something that most people aren't. Maybe that's the case, but let me know nonetheless. Now, let's get into something that's going to become very politically sensitive in a short amount of time. And it is Amazon and Walmart. Over this past weekend, there was cover to cover coverage on the Wall Street Journal, on the Financial Times, on the New York Times, CNN, Bloomberg, even Fox News was discussing it, about just how much prices are beginning to increase on Amazon and on Walmart, both in the stores and online. So the Wall Street Journal ran a pretty significant study that showed that Amazon's prices since January 20th have gone up 5.2%. Now that's only 6 months' time. So if you annualize that number, that's nearly 10% inflation on retail goods. Obviously, the vast majority of products from Amazon, that if they are foreign, they come from China. So they are going to have significant tariffs in place, right? So we can expect to see these price increases. Lately, there's become this narrative that, the foreign producers eating it all in their margins. No, domestic buyers are eating it and they're trying to save it and they're not trying to pass it on. That's just not true. Please, it's just completely false. It is provably false. It's demonstrably false. It's false across many different companies and many different sectors. We can clearly see that prices are going up. In fact, some categories on Amazon, some items are up literally almost 200%. Some items are up 50%, 40%, 30%. There are very few items that have gone down in price, right? And this is including all the cost-saving measures that Amazon has been trying to do. And not just Amazon. I'm not trying to pinpoint them. They didn't do anything wrong. In my opinion, the policy is wrong. We have an incorrect policy in this country, and that is what is causing all of these issues. And then we got a study in from Walmart also. Well, a company that did a study on Walmart. And it showed that in certain household appliance numbers, prices on Walmart from the end of April, so let's say May 1st until July 1st, let's make these numbers simple, are up in some instances 50%. Things like pots and pans, things like brooms, things like vacuums, things like plates, things like forks, things like knives, necessities, not fancy things, generic necessities that people need for their households, right? These things have gone up an explosion in price. We're not talking about regular 2, 3, 4% inflation, which to me, even that's unacceptable. But we're talking about double-digit runaway inflation in 2 months' time. And I stress, this is not an annualized number, right? Like, this is just 2 months. We could come back in a year's time and see that prices on some of these items literally doubled. And that would be a big, big problem. That would be a big economic problem. That would be a big social problem. Ultimately, that's going to be a big problem for the Republicans in 2026 as midterms start coming around. You know, in the United States, we have essentially a perpetual political cycle. We have an election. We have essentially 18 months of clean governing, 16 months if you really count that they have to wait until January to get in. And then we're instantly into an election season again, over and over and over and over and over again. So this is going to become a hot topic. And again, the whole point of our podcast of this is we're getting ahead. We're discussing and we're publishing stuff in the middle of July that no one's going to be talking about until October, right? We are writing on this show, all of us together, we are writing the front cover of the most important newspapers in 90 days from now. We're getting ahead of all of it. So that was that. Now, I just want to talk about a personal anecdote that I saw because it was literally mind-boggling to me, right? And ultimately, it is not so significant in the grand scheme of things, but I just want to show you how entrenched and significant and structural these inflation pressures are, and many of them are coming from tariffs. I went grocery shopping this past weekend, and I go every, let's say, 2-3 weeks, I go grocery shopping. And, you know, to be honest with you, I really don't look at the prices all the time. I don't monitor them month over month. I know what I pay for them, and I get a good ballpark of what it was last month, and then I see my American Express bill, and as long as it's within a certain range, I'm kind of okay with it. But this week when I was checking out, I two things at the cash register that I was like, what? Was coffee beans and ground beef. All right, my coffee bean prices literally went up 40% since early June. 40%. Now, I'm not a fancy guy. I don't really buy designer, fancy coffee bean brands. I'm just buying really simple ground coffee beans, and I just have a simple machine at my home, and I drink coffee